Hey, I'm Robert Heffernan and I support Ireland AM Time to Talk campaign.
That was, of course, the fabulous world walking champion Rob Heffernan supporting Ireland AM's Time to Talk mental health campaign, and we thank him for doing that. Now, the rugby world is not renowned for getting in touch with its emotional side, but rugby pundit Brent Pope has suffered with anxiety and panic attacks since a young age and has been very happy to speak about it as well. I recently chatted to Brent about his life and the numerous ways he has dealt with his mental health problems throughout his life. Let's take a look. Thank you very much for joining me this morning to be part of Ireland AM's Time to Talk mental health campaign. I read your book yesterday, which was incredibly enjoyable and kind of sad for me because I look at everything you've achieved in your life and I think he doesn't see it that way. But the other thing that I was struck by was, for all of your achievements, you have been constantly dogged by these issues, and not just as a grown man, as a young boy, as a 14-year-old boy. You had your first panic attack. Can we start at that moment?
Well, I suppose first of all I applaud programs like this to I suppose bring mental health to the fore, because it's vital. I mean, I couldn't have done this a few years ago. I couldn't have sat in front of somebody and talked about my vulnerabilities, because I grew up in a macho society, New Zealand rugby, off a farming background, a rural town. You're just told get on with it, suck it up, real men don't cry, all that kind of thing. And as long as you were big physically and you were taking out your aggression on the field, everything was okay. I mean, I guess I knew from an early age that there were problems more than, when I talk about my mental health issues, they're anxiety, worry-driven, failure-driven, all those things, which are just irrational. And if I say it to people like you're saying, oh, well, you've done all this, and people would see me on the TV and say, look, he's a confident guy, and all those things. I was dogged for years, especially in my younger years, extreme low self-worth, no sense of confidence in myself, that I would never achieve anything in my life. So if anybody said to me, you'll be a good rugby player, you go to university, no, I won't. There's no way I can do that. Yes, I did, and that's another, we can go into that. But I remember it's very vivid, and it's a funny story, and I say it in the book because how things can still affect you years on.
Yeah, you remember it like it happened yesterday.
I remember, and it still happens, and that's the thing where people think that there's things that can take you back, whether it's a smell or whether it's people always talk about it, maybe for instance going out the first night and having a few drinks and then not being able to stand the taste of that drink for years later. Exams always used to start like our school cert in New Zealand, like your leaving cert over here. Major exams would always start on a Monday. On a Sunday night, my mother would always have a bath in those days and leave the water in. And she'd always say, look, go and have a bath and try to relax. For some reason, as soon as I hit the water, I would just go into this panic attack state. And I remember sitting there sometimes for hours, unbeknown to my parents at the time, maybe 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, blue, the water would be freezing cold, and I'd be just shaking, not because of the cold, shaking there because I would think, that's quite emotional for me now actually, but thinking that there's no way I can pass the exams. But it's not even that. There'll be people out there saying, yeah, well, we all feel like that. Job interview, relationship, all those things that you think it's going to fail. Mine was irrational. Rather than my father saying, well, look, Brent, if you happen to fail, worst case, what's the worst that can happen? You do it again or you repeat something like that. And it was reasonably good at school, so it wasn't any reason for them not to think it. But I just would get such into a state, I could, I just about was incapable of doing anything. Now, I got over it.
Sitting in a bath.
Sitting in a bath, bolt upright. For hours on end, but it would map my whole life out. It wouldn't just stop at the exams. I couldn't stop it there. It would be, you're never going to get a decent job. You're going to be working in some, whatever, no disrespect to anybody, but some job well below what you could do. You might be homeless. You might never get married. You might, all those things. It would just spiral.
This is going on in your head as a 14-year-old boy who has, and people might question your childhood, were there issues, but you had fabulous parents, you had a wonderful life, you're running around playing rugby.
Yeah, wonderful.
So there was no kind of cause per se.
No cause per se, and then that more or less would come and go for most of my. Now, I thought for a while, it's just worry, it's just whatever. But then when I look back now, and even in my rugby career, when other kids are praying that you play for your country or praying that you play, I'm praying that I don't, because I think, I'm not worthy, I shouldn't be in the same room with these people. And people would tell me, as I said before, we were talking before, and I said, look, I would tell my parents where I wasn't playing,
I read that in the book.
Yeah, I couldn't stand to have anybody come and watch me play rugby.
You didn't, so as a young boy who adored rugby, you lied to your parents and told them The game was on somewhere else.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come and watch you.
And it wasn't a matter of, I know teenagers saying, oh, your parents are walking behind them when they go buying clothes.
You didn't think you were good enough?
No, and it had nothing to do with that. I wasn't embarrassed by my parents. I was very proud of what they'd done. They're very empathetic, hard-working people. I just couldn't be proud of myself.
We're in Ireland now. You've been here for 20-odd years.
Yeah.
At what stage of being in Ireland and living in Ireland did you think, okay, I need some help here. I can't handle this on my own anymore?
Well, there were different stages, because when I was put into situations where I'd start to get the paralysis by analysis, if that's the kind of the commonplace term, then I would experience that feeling of kind of loneliness, that feeling of this will fail, that feeling of, I won't be able to achieve that. Even though there'd always be somebody pulling me back and not allowing me to enjoy it. I think that was the sad thing. I think the sad thing is there's people out there that have achieved a lot less on paper, but have had that enjoyment and have had that happiness, and say, people can speak about this word euphoria. I could never mention that because I'd never had it. And that's not a selfish thing. That's not like saying,
You never took joy from any of your
No,
achievements?
don't I thank God that there's people out there, and that, touch wood, that I'm healthy and that my family are healthy and that I've had a good life. Yes, I do, and I thank God every day for that. And I'm not saying that, it's just that there are people out there, extremely brave, wonderful people that extract milk life. And my ability, I wasn't even anywhere near the milking machine. It would be people saying, oh, you must be so proud you've done that, or you must be, you must like that people thought you did a good job on that, and I'd say no, like, why?
This led to a diagnosis.
This led to a diagnosis, yeah. Again, and I'm on this program because I owe it to kind of myself, but more so that I owe it to other people, because I am a public figure, and I could have hidden away with things my whole life and got away with it. And yes, there'll be people out there deem me to be weak, in a sense. No,
there wouldn't.
But I'll think
that's
that.
you thinking that.
Yeah, and I suppose
if anything, the opposite actually.
Well, I would hope that, and I mean, I said I never wanted to be and I don't want to be any poster child for mental health. I know there are people out there with, that have far worse issues than me, and the whole country has far worse issues than me, and young people, tragically taking their lives, and that's something that's to be addressed, and hopefully people, talking about things makes it easier. If people say, well, look, Brent Pope's done this, we see him on the TV, he seems to be pretty sound, sort of, or not, then maybe we can go and seek help, and that's it. And I got a diagnosis of a word called dysthymia, that I was dysthymic.
What does that mean?
Well, I don't know. I've looked it up plenty of times, and I've tried, and funny enough, I've gone on a website, and that's where I get the best, for me, that's where I get the best read. It's, encyclopedic definition is probably a chronic state of discontentment, a chronic state, which actually can be quite dangerous because it's chronic. It's not hyper. It's not up and down. It's just this kind of last years of that's it. Sort of in the definition, and it's quite, I suppose, a newfangled word coming out of American psychology. But I mean, to me, the best definitions I got was when I went on to other people like me that would share it on a website. When they would go on and talk about a lot from the States. And just talk about it, and I'd say, wow, that's me. And I mean, I think the best definition I got was sort of kind of living life in the grey area.
And it's referred to sometimes as the half-empty heart.
The half-empty heart, that's what there's a brilliant book that sums it up, half-empty heart. Yeah. That's exactly the way I'd look at it. So I mean, you think about someone having heart and soul and enjoyment, and mine's half-empty. And
but having said all of that, you did have a bit of a breakthrough moment this year.
Yeah, and I remember
you were out in Australia, you'd been at the Lions. Tell us what happened.
Well, I suppose a few years ago I was back in New Zealand, and it was a lovely sunny day, and I was back there on Christmas seeing my parents for the first time in 25 years on Christmas Day, and and Mark, my brother, took me aside and he said, Brent, just try to enjoy the moment, the day, the hour, whatever it is, just try to enjoy that. And I tried, but I found it difficult. So I mean, about a year ago or something, I started I started really working myself, and look, you know, if anybody wants a collection of self-help books there, come and see me, because I've
Your
got
self-help book library is
geez,
vast.
you open the thing, it'll fall out like an old school locker, you know.
But it's true. This was a big moment for you.
It was a huge moment. Yeah. I was out in the Lions tour, and a fantastic time, and everybody had left and gone back, and I was in Sydney. I was going to say stuck in Sydney, but you can't be stuck in a gorgeous place like Sydney. I was in Sydney. And it was a nice day, and I walked down to the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and I sat out there, and I, you know, whatever I did, had a glass of wine or something, and I kind of got it, you know, I got it. I said, you know, Brent, life is good, you know, life is good, and you'll be okay, you know. And that was the first moment, and it's emotional, you know, it's the first moment that I've ever really felt that. I've ever felt that, you know, things will be okay for me, you know.
It's the first moment in your entire life that you felt happy?
That I've felt that kind of happiness, you know, if that makes sense. I know there's fleeting moments of kind of
joy, I suppose, is what you're talking about.
When you put it that way, I mean, is it one of the moments? Is it one of the moments really? I mean, it's now that you've said that to me, is that a time where I was really happy? You know, yeah, probably.
Well, now we're at a stage where you had that moment under the bridge in Sydney where you thought, hey, I get it, life is sweet, and you're writing down your 5 things every day that you find good in life. So there's progress.
There's progress, and I'm not going to sit here and be a contradiction and say, oh wow, you know, great, life is brilliant, Sinead, you know, I'm going, this is what I'm doing.
But are you able to say, I've done some pretty good things in my life?
Not yet.
You're still not able to say that?
No. It's taken me half a century, or certainly 4 decades or 4.5 decades to get to some realisation that there was something that was amiss,
but if you look back at that 14-year-old boy shaking in the cold and the dark in that bath, afraid to tell anyone how he's feeling, and look at you now, that's progress.
Look, I'm getting there. And
to finish, Brent, because we could talk forever. No, it has been a genuine pleasure, and I could happily talk to you forever and a day. But when it comes to people watching now, who are maybe in a very dark place and don't know where to go or what to do, what would you say?
Get on the phone. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, you know, like, I mean, one thing, and I go out to some of the schools now, and, you know, I just say, look, it's okay, it's kind of okay not to be okay, and more importantly, it's okay to be yourself. I mean, you see so many people have to live up to so many of these stereotypes, especially young people now in society. You know what they look like. You know what they're doing, what their jobs are. Just be happy with yourself. And if you are in a dark place, and if you're a young person out there, especially because suicide rates in this country are horrific, and I mean there's not enough being done about it. And it's a case of, if you're in a dark place, and again, I'm not a poster child, I'm just somebody that has had my own problems, and there's people out there I know that are in desperate dark places now watching this and don't think there's light at the end of the tunnel. And it's sad, there absolutely is, you know. Sorry, there absolutely is. There's a way out. No, there's a way out for people. Please get on the phone, you know, talk to if it's a local priest. If you can't talk to your parents, you don't feel they understand you, or they don't feel a brother or sister, you know, talk to friends, get some help, because, you know, with help, you know, you'll get there. You will get there, and
you can see the sunshine.
Yeah, absolutely, and see the sun. And it might take a while, and you know, like me, it might be a long, hard journey for people, and people know that. And once you know that, and once there's their support groups around you, you'll get through it. You know, you will get through it. There's a new day. There's a new, you know, and even young Donal Walsh, who came on speaking about his life, and you know, and I mean, these people that, you know, that I suppose life has taken away from them far too soon, you know, and for those people out there that are sitting there thinking that there's nothing to live for, there's absolutely everything to live for, and it's really just a case of reaching out, grab the help, any help you can get, and take it and move forward, and you'll be okay. That's the message.
Brent Pope, thank you
so
much. Thank you so much. That's a pleasure.
Okay.
I'm going to hug you. And big thanks to Brent Pope, who was just so honest and so brave in just speaking directly from the heart, and I know his interview will have a huge impact. I've already been told we've got a massive response from you out there. Do text in 53131, email irelandam@tv3.ie, and it's hashtag Time to Talk, Ireland AM's mental health campaign. And a thank you to the Royal Marine Hotel in Dunleary for helping to organise the interview with Brent.